Well, let's discuss what's behind this diplomatic scandal with James Corbett, editor of the independent news website CorbettReport.com. Many thanks for being with us here on our team, Mr. Corbett. Now, the beating of a diplomat goes against all international conventions, doesn't it? How likely is it that it was done intentionally?
Well, I think it must have been done intentionally. There's no way that something like that could not have taken place without the people involved having known exactly what they were doing. And it really is an egregious affront to all diplomatic relations. So one has to imagine that this is a major diplomatic incident and not one that will be smoothed over very easily.
Now, as we were just hearing there from our correspondent, the row comes just as tensions grow around Syria. Why would Qatar want to make relations with Russia even worse?
It's an interesting question, and one would have to posit that it has something to do with Qatar's close relations to the United States and the U.S. interests in the region. Of course, $60 to $70 billion worth of U.S. investments being in the Qatar energy industry, which I think speaks to the long-standing close diplomatic and business relations between, of course, the U.S. and Britain as well, of course, being a former British protectorate. So one sees in the recent events, especially over the last several months, as Qatar has become the rotational head of the Arab League, one has seen them taking on a much more prominent role in the region, one that bespeaks a power that seems at odds with its relatively small population, but it's certainly wielding that power to the maximum. And as we've heard recently in that report, absolutely they were instrumental apparently in getting Syria kicked out of the Arab League, just as they were instrumental in getting Libya kicked out shortly before the Arab League decided that humanitarian intervention was on order for Libya. So it seems like Qatar has been coming into its own recently and taking on more of an aggressive stance in general, and I think we can see this as an extension of that general policy.
So what interest do you think that Qatar actually has specifically in cranking up pressure on Syria?
Well, I think, once again, Qatar is playing a sort of divide that's happening right now in the Arab League, and it really is becoming very much a force to be reckoned with in the Arab League as a whole, which traditionally has been seen as nothing more than really a type of ineffective talking shop, but has really started to become quite a powerful entity in its own right. And I think Qatar sees its chance to actually wield some diplomatic pressure and power at this particular moment. And as I say, I think it has to be seen in the light of being beholden to Anglo-American interests, as represented not only by their close economic and diplomatic ties, but by the fact that, for example, the head of the Department of Homeland Security, Janet Napolitano, was just in Doha just this past weekend, signing a new bilateral travel agreement between the U.S. and Qatar. So I think we see increasing ties going on in that respect, which I think the U.S. is also playing probably its diplomatic angle to try to put pressure on Qatar to wield its power in the Arab League in a way that is beneficial to Anglo-American interests.
OK, well, returning to this incident specifically now, Qatar will have to officially apologise for this incident with the Russian ambassador to restore relations with Moscow. Do you think that that's likely to happen?
One would have to venture to guess that that's not going to happen very easily or very quickly. Unless it does happen very quickly, it's going to become a very sticky situation. So it's not something that can be smoothed over very easily. As I said, it could not possibly have happened by accident. So unless there is some serious some actions taken against the officials who were involved specifically in the incident, and an immediate attempt is made to mend relations, one can imagine that this might have lasting impact on the relations between the two countries. OK,
James Corbett, editor of the independent news website CorbettReport.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice.